the most disturbing ways people died. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into some of the most disturbing and unusual ways people have met their end. We're talking about stuff that will give you nightmares, the kind of stuff you wish you could unsee. Seriously guys, this one's intense. Viewer discretion is advised. We're counting down the top 10 most messed up ways people have died throughout history. From ancient torture methods to gruesome accidents, we're exploring the dark side of human history. Get ready to have your mind blown and your stomach turned. We're about to take a wild ride through some of the most gruesome and terrifying ways to die. You won't believe some of the things we're about to uncover. Let's do this! Buried alive. Imagine this. You wake up in total darkness. You're disoriented, groggy, and then it hits you. You're trapped 6 feet under inside a coffin. You can feel the weight of the dirt pressing down on you, suffocating you. The air is thick and stale and panic starts to set in. You scream until your throat is raw, but nobody can hear you. You claw at the wooden planks above you, desperate for a way out. You imagine the horrified faces of your loved ones when they realize what's happened. This terrifying fate, my friends, is being buried alive. And believe it or not, it's happened to more people than you'd think. Back in the day, they didn't always check for a pulse before they slammed that coffin shut. We're talking about people accidentally pronounced dead, waking up in their own graves. Can you imagine the sheer terror? The feeling of the dirt slowly filling your lungs as you struggle to breathe? It's the stuff of nightmares, right? But for some people, this nightmare was a horrifying reality. So next time you're feeling claustrophobic, just be thankful you're not 6 feet under with no way out. Scaphism. Okay, buckle up because this next one is seriously messed up. We're talking about scaphism, an ancient Persian method of execution so brutal, it'll make your skin crawl. Picture this. You're stripped naked and tied between 2 small boats or hollowed-out logs. Yeah, not a good start, right? But it gets so much worse. Your captors force-feed you milk and honey until you're overflowing. And then they leave you. The mixture attracts swarms of insects, which feast on your helpless body. We're talking flies, maggots, anything that wants a piece of you. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the sun beats down on you, baking you alive. Days turn into nights, and the insects burrow into your skin, laying their eggs. You're literally rotting from the inside out, your screams lost to the wind. Scaphism is a slow, agonizing death designed to inflict the maximum amount of suffering. It's a horrifying thought and a stark reminder of the dark side of human nature. The brazen bull. This next one takes us to ancient Greece, where they had some pretty creative ways of dealing with their enemies. And by creative, I mean utterly terrifying. Enter the brazen bull, a hollow brass statue shaped like, you guessed it, a bull. But this wasn't just any bull, it was a torture device designed to inflict unimaginable pain. Here's how it worked. They'd shove a person inside the bull through a door in the back. Then, they'd build a fire underneath the belly of the beast, slowly heating the metal until it was scorching hot. The poor soul trapped inside would literally be roasted alive, their screams muffled by the bull's metallic shell. It's said that the screams would echo through the bull's nostrils, sounding like the bellows of a real bull. Can you imagine the agony? The feeling of the metal burning your skin? The air growing hotter and hotter with each passing moment? It's enough to make you want to swear off barbecue forever. Chapter 4. Drawn and Quartered. Let's journey back to medieval times where they took their punishments very, very seriously. We're talking about drawn and quartered, a gruesome spectacle that was as much about public humiliation as it was about punishment. Here's the breakdown. First, you'd be dragged through the streets behind a horse, not exactly a smooth ride. Then came the hanging, but don't worry, they wouldn't let you actually die. Oh no, that would be too easy. Next up, while you're still alive and fully conscious, they'd cut you open, remove your intestines, and burn them right in front of your face. Yeah, I told you this one was intense. But wait, there's more. Finally, they'd behead you and chop your body into 4 pieces, displaying them throughout the city as a warning to others. Talk about making a statement. Drawn and quartered was a brutal public execution reserved for the most serious crimes. Chapter 5. Rat torture. Alright guys, I'm not gonna lie, this next one is particularly nasty. We're talking rat torture, a method so depraved it's hard to believe humans could even think of it. Here's the gist. They'd strap you down, usually on your back, and then things would get really unpleasant. They'd take a hungry rat and place it on your stomach. But here's the kicker. They'd also put a metal bucket or cage over the rat, heated to a scorching temperature. Now, rats are pretty smart creatures. They don't like being burned alive any more than we do. So, what does the rat do? It panics and looks for a way out. And the only way out is by burrowing. That's right, the rat would claw and gnaw its way through your flesh to escape the heat. It's a slow, excruciating death, and the psychological torture of knowing what's happening is just as bad as the physical pain. Chapter 6, Flaying. You know how they say beauty is only skin deep? Well, this next one takes that saying to a whole new level. We're talking about flaying, the act of removing a person's skin while they are still alive. Yeah, you heard that right. This gruesome practice dates back centuries and was used as both a form of torture and execution. They'd use all sorts of tools for the job, from knives to whips to even sharpened seashells. And it wasn't a quick death either. Imagine the excruciating pain, the feeling of your skin being ripped away inch by inch. It's the kind of pain that would drive anyone mad. And to make matters worse, sometimes they wouldn't even kill you right away. They'd leave you there, bleeding and exposed, to suffer a slow and agonizing death. Flaying was a brutal punishment, often reserved for those who dared to challenge authority or commit particularly heinous crimes. Chapter 7. This next one comes from ancient China, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's called Ling Qi, but it's also known by a much more chilling name, Death by 1,000 Cuts. And trust me, that name is disturbingly accurate. Here's how it worked. The executioner would methodically slice off parts of the victim's body over an extended period, sometimes even days. And we're not just talking about limbs here. They'd start with small cuts, maybe removing fingers, toes, or pieces of flesh. The goal was to inflict as much pain as possible, prolonging the suffering for as long as they could. Can you imagine the agony, the feeling of each cut, the knowledge that it's only going to get worse? It's a fate worse than death, a slow and agonizing descent into oblivion. Chapter 8. Impalement. Let's talk about impalement, a method of execution that's about as straightforward as it sounds. Basically, they'd take a long, sharp stake and drive it through your body. Simple, but brutally effective. Now, there were a few variations on this theme. Sometimes they'd impale you through the chest, aiming for your heart. Other times, they'd go for the rectum, leaving you to slowly slide down the stake. Either way, it was not a fun way to go. The stake would pierce your organs, causing massive internal bleeding and excruciating pain. And if you were lucky enough to die quickly, well, consider yourself lucky. Because sometimes people would linger for days, even weeks, before finally succumbing to their injuries. Impalement was a gruesome death designed to send a clear message: don't mess with the people in charge. Chapter 9. The Blood Eagle. We're heading back to Scandinavia for this next one, where the Vikings had a particularly gruesome method of execution called the Blood Eagle. Now, there's some debate about whether this was a real practice or just a scary story, but either way, it's pretty messed up. Imagine this. You're lying face down, your arms and legs pinned to the ground. The executioner stands above you with a sharp axe, ready to inflict some serious pain. They'd start by making an incision down your spine, cutting through skin and muscle until your ribs were exposed. Then came the really fun part. They'd use the axe to sever your ribs from your spine, prying them open like a pair of wings. And if that wasn't bad enough, they'd sometimes pull your lungs out through the open wound, leaving them draped over your shoulders like a pair of grotesque wings. Chapter 10. Cement Shoes. For our final entry, we're diving into the world of organized crime, where they have their own unique brand of justice. And when it comes to gruesome executions, few things are as iconic as cement shoes. It's exactly what it sounds like. They'd take you, usually somewhere remote and secluded, and then they'd get to work. They'd force your feet into a bucket or box, and then they'd fill it with wet cement. Once the cement hardened, well, you can probably guess what happened next. They'd toss you into a river, lake, or ocean where you'd sink straight to the bottom. The weight of the cement would make it impossible to swim, leaving you to drown a slow and agonizing death. It's a chilling thought and a stark reminder of the brutality of the criminal underworld. Until next time, thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.